quick introduction from each of you. Please introduce yourself.
So, quick one, Bruno. I'm leading the data science and AI team at Novo Banco, which is a bank here in Portugal. So,
thank you.
Yes, and Jacob from Sydbank. I think you can remember what I said about it, so I will skip it.
Yes.
Sarah from Julius Baer, which is a global wealth management company, and I've been in financial services for over 20 years and been a data geek transforming with data throughout that journey.
Davor, I worked last 15 years in Erste Group, mostly on the IT side. Before that, 10 years in telecom and IT, actually. IT is my background.
So many years of experience in one panel gathered. There's one video on the internet, I don't know, maybe you've seen it. It says that the keynote speech of the year, there's a guy that goes up in the stage and says just AI. And then he goes out and the audience goes crazy underneath. So AI. But do we really know what AI is? And Bruno, I'm looking at you because you mentioned about AI in the morning, and Jacob before did some corrections about AI or Gen AI, but what AI really is? What different models are out there? Can you give us a bit the background, please?
Yeah, sure. So I guess that fun fact is that it's actually much easier to explain what is AI nowadays than back in the past, because I remember like 15 years ago trying to explain to my mother what I was doing, and what I saw was a face of hope, because it was hard to understand. And also with businesses, right? Well, banking, they are clearly early adopters within AI. So in the 90s, they were already within the risk and within the customer analytics, they were already working on this. But what is AI? Putting in a simple way and trying to get all the different algorithms and Gen AI and etc. I guess that in the end, it's all about having machines understanding patterns within the data, because the secret sauce here is the data. So if you are able to use these algorithms to understand these patterns, then I guess that you will have AI. And I guess to do it right, and I'm just simplifying and just talking about training these models to have good insights, I guess that it is a combination of three simple things. The very first one, data, of course. The other one, the algorithms. But of course, without the human knowledge, you won't be able to do good AI as well, because there are, if you want to have a machine learning from data, there are some specific things that you got to put into the algorithm, which is your business domain knowledge or your experience or whatsoever, because again, algorithms sometimes they may be tricky. We all know there is a very famous correlation, which is that every time that Nicolas Cage makes a movie, the death rate for drowning jumps. It is very high. So of course that it doesn't happen, right? So I guess that I would put AI in very simple terms on this. And algorithms, we have been seeing a very good disruption, because I guess that in the 90s we already had the machine learning with a different name. It was called predictive analytics and data mining, right? But it was all about the classification and segmentation models, which are very useful for customer analytics and many different use cases. 10 years ago, we had the rise of deep learning with these new capabilities into computer vision and stuff. And last year, we had generative AI. And now we have robotics and humanoids coming in.
Yep.
So I guess that we are starting with a very good evolution in terms of AI.
Yeah. But it's amazing how Gen AI actually stole the fame, let's say, and the spotlight from AI, which is a broader, let's say, term. Anyway, the thing is that AI is not a thing of today.
No.
It's technology that it's widely used for many years now. Okay, I've promised to keep it quick and shorter than we should. But so Sarah, I come to you. Bruno said about data, and it's so true. So what should we do before AI transformation? What prerequisites must a bank have in order to implement AI?
Yeah, and I think it's about scalability and sustainability in the long run, right? Because I think you can put things out there. We've seen banks who have given ChatGPT to everybody, then realized if you're doing ChatGPT 4, that can get pretty expensive pretty quickly. Maybe not everybody needs it, so it
My
pulls
security
back.
guy won't allow that,
We've seen banks who have tried to put solutions out there, being caught out, not just banks, other industries as well, with AI behaving badly, let's say that way. So I think you've got to balance the use cases of where you want to go with the risk governance. So you need some kind of AI governance framework. Can be an enabler for innovation, not a stifler, if you build the blocks right. And I'm going to talk about that tomorrow during the session.
Mm-hmm.
So how you pull that together to build trust. And then it's literacy and education, because we're now in a world, and we've talked about this morning as well, where every single person is accountable. I mean, last year I would have asked who's using ChatGPT in the room. Now I can ask who's not using ChatGPT in the room, and I'm pretty sure no hands are going to go up, right? So we're all accountable for what we do with that data, right? If I ask it a question, am I going to copy and paste it and stick it in an email to my clients? Our RMs need to understand not to do that, right? So it's literacy, governance framework, and then capabilities. And you've got to align those three things together. So you're taking your organization, your culture on that journey. It's as much as a culture shift as it is a tech shift.
It is true. Yes, of course.
Yes.
Please.
It's just because we're actually in the middle of it, so I fully agree with you. We created an internal AI for our employees to easier find the right text in an internal business procedure. That's quite easy, right? We were stormed with people that were saying that the solution was not working. It was working perfectly, but the business operating procedures was just not updated or correct, right? So it's back to data discipline, data quality, right?
Yeah,
So,
and trust, right?
Yeah.
Knowing the knowledge to know what not to trust, and to verify, especially with generative AI.
From what you already said, and this is part of what I consider the biggest challenge in implementing AI, one of the biggest at least, you all mentioned data, because the quality of data that we have and how we built the right data is a fundamental element for AI. So this is a question for you. So how do we really build data? It's something, what can we do to build the data that we can use in order to implement AI?
I would first to refer
Yes,
to the
please.
first question, which was what it is and whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then now regarding the data, I remember 2 years ago I saw an interesting slide on a conference about data, big data, something, and somebody quote, probably you saw it as well, like big data is like a teenage sex. Everybody's talking about it. Nobody actually knows what it is, but
Exactly.
since everybody's talking about it, everybody
Exactly.
claims that they are doing it and whatsoever, but actually they don't.
I
And I
some
think you
others
can
about
change,
not only
it
data,
for
but-
AI, for anything. I think that the quote is the same. So actually coming back to your question about the data, I mean, first thing which is important is that there is a proper understanding what exactly do you want to do, and how are you using it. I mean, just bringing now in recent years, tremendous amount of new technology is coming into our hands. And the question is, are we even capable of grasping it and understanding it, what it is? Because, if I'm a good driver and you just put me in the airplane, airplane has, let's say, more possibilities, but I will probably crash if I don't know how to drive it. So the first thing is actually getting the common understanding and building the know-how within the organization about those technologies, which I have to say, I mean, maybe others will not agree or at least want to agree, but the technology is tremendously advancing, and we are not following it in general in our organizations with the knowledge. I mean, not even in IT area, I'm still not seeing, especially in banks, the amount of knowledge which is necessarily for managing all of this. And then coming back to data itself, I mean, you can't set it up properly if this baseline is not there. That's the first thing. Second thing is then, again, banks are sitting on quite a lot of data. Our databases are huge, cost a lot of money. But if you dive into that, I mean, good luck putting artificial intelligence on the top of all this, because what will come out, God bloody knows. So that's the point, because I also saw it in my organization. There were quite a lot of attempts to kind of consolidate these databases, especially if the bankers are growing by acquisitions, but it was never done.
Yeah.
And you have duplications, you have contradictions in the data. I mean, put your brains above something which is contradicting, what will come out? I mean, nothing useful. And AI is, built on our picture, so it will be equally confused. It will maybe just, look nicely and speak perfect English, but yeah.
We have in Greece, we have a word that we are using when we are building complex structures. We call it a Byzantium. It's a Byzantium. It's kind of actually like the old Byzantium in East, which is something so complex and so daedalus that you can't actually navigate.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier something which is giving me the, let's say, the pass to ask Jacob about people, because you mentioned people before, and who are actually the critical element of any transformation, either it's digital or AI or whatever. But now, in the era of Gen AI and AI, etc., we believe that there's special skill set that is necessary in order to be able to cope within the new era. So, what do you think people should learn? I heard the NVIDIA CEO who, at the point he said, don't ask your children to learn to code. Yes, they should learn how to talk to the machines, something like that. Yes. What do you think?
But I think it's understanding in general what these technologies can do, because we can also see that a funny story again is actually that we as I was told, we were just launching an education of how to prompt, right? And 2 days later we are using Microsoft Copilot. So 2 days later you actually don't need to prompt, you can just speak to it, right? So basically, we are trying to educate our employees, but development is actually going faster than you can actually educate. So I think it's back to a little bit pointless, like Dama was saying, that you need to get them to understand that data is actually critical, and I think that's where they can actually do some good things. And then, of course, try to find out how to actually keep up with the speed. But if you need to be AI experts, then it's a full-time job, right? Because the speed is just so high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can I add a little bit to that? Because we talked a bit about agile earlier as well. And what's interesting to me is the evolution here, right? We've gone through the kind of knowledge era age during the last industrial revolution, right? Where knowledge work became the thing that you wanted to have. And now we've moved out of there now into more of a Gen AI age. But what knowledge work required was the ability to be able to think horizontally and vertically, right? Now, we tended to do it more in SME silos, but there was that need to do. And actually with AI and the way that AI thinks and generative AI thinks, it requires you to connect those dots together, but it's still constantly challenging the thought process. So if you can help people think in an agile fashion to say, you don't need to learn a set of prompts. What you need to do is understand how the thing thinks. Whether you're talking to it or whether you're writing a prompt, it's the same thing, right? It's more about the mindset of how people are thinking and approaching the problem. That's why it's such a cultural shift in my mind. So.
Yes,
and
please.
I can just add that I had a dialogue with my son who is 15 years old, and he's actually more critical when he's using ChatGPT than I am, because I'm a little bit, I know I'm trying to not be, but to be honest, I'm old-fashioned, right? So whenever ChatGPT is entering, I mean, perfect, that's crazy, that's good. My son is saying, yeah, but I can see that it's from this person, and maybe you shouldn't believe a YouTuber. Okay, maybe you're right. So I also think that's kind of a skill set that we need, how to actually distinguish between fake news and real news.
Yeah. For me, it's also flexibility and adaptability. I mean, maybe adaptability is one of the key traits that we should all have because, as you said, things are changing so fast that we even can't keep the pace. So, yes,
If I may,
please.
and it's not only about customer and businesses. Like you were saying, you were giving an example about you and your kids, right? The way we are interacting with technology on our day-to-day life is actually changing our habits, right? And we are actually, and I can't imagine the future, right? But it's fun to know that look at the smartphones and the habits of 10 years ago are completely different than the ones from today. So I'm quite, sometimes probably it's my romantic view, but I like to think on the next 10 years, what's more to come, but I'm quite sure that it will be a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. So this is a question that we have for all of us and also to be addressed to the audience because we have an audience which is from around the world here. Are there diverse approaches to tech modernization and future banking experiences around the world? I can definitely say that Asia has a progress, let's say, a much more progressive take on that, and China, of course, as well. It's something that I'm discussing with colleagues internally with the bank. I tell them that whenever you want to see what the future is holding, you should have an eye on Asia and what they're doing for the fintech side, at least. But also, US is a different beast. EU was Andrews. He was in the morning. EU is a different beast. What do you think about what do you think about the different approaches to tech modernization around the world? Just a quote from you, and maybe whoever from the audience wants to add something to that. Sarah?
I could start. Yeah, I mean, yes, you've got East, Europe, West, right? 84% of all the startups are happening within US or East. So Europe's
Lagging
not got a
behind.
lot.
Yeah, lagging
and that's not
behind.
just Europe, that's Europe and India, right? So it's lagging far behind. So part of it is, I think, investment. Part of it's regulation. Speaking to large car manufacturers, I'm not going to mention any names, but they were like, it's not we can't be Tesla. We're not allowed to be Tesla because we have to get approval for every single component we put out there, which is an example of where regulation is not helping. It's actually stifling. I think we're probably going to, in my opinion, I think we're going to take more of a pattern of trust in Europe. So while we may not be pushing the limits in terms of innovation, though we are doing some cool stuff, especially in Switzerland, we are looking at how we create a trusted environment. And trust is becoming absolutely key in the digital age because you can't trust anything anymore. Your WhatsApp can call, you can have a video chat, you think it's your child, it's not.
Yeah. True. Any other input?
No, I fully agree with the legislation part of regulation because what we can see is actually that the countries are interpreting the European legislation differently. So some are more loose and some are not. And I think that could actually be the differentiating between the countries. In Denmark, for example, there was a huge dialogue in the government around if they should, if young people should be allowed to use technology in their exams. Some were saying, of course, it's the future. And some were saying, no, because then they can cheat. Right? And it's a bit, what is the right, what's wrong?
Yeah, there's a thin line.
Yeah.
Any comment from? Sorry,
I would still. I have these wires. Thank you. Anyway, I would still add to that the understanding and actually education of people on the technology, because I mean, yeah, we can speak about regulations, but who is writing regulations? People. And if these people do not understand the technology, good luck with the regulations and everything. So in that context, I mean, I do have a feeling that we are lagging more and more behind actually in the understanding of that. Technology is evolving, I would say, now at the speed where nobody can really follow it. And honestly, I don't have the answer. You know, you cannot stop the development. You shouldn't stop the development. But the problem is it's getting out of hand, right? And the problem is that the amount of available technology, amount of computing power and everything is I would say now already scary in one hand. And I don't go in direction that computers will overtake us. I don't think it will happen. But all these computers are managed by people who have less and less capabilities to manage all that, and that's dangerous. I mean, somebody will click the wrong button or whatever, and then good luck. Yeah.
This is so true, and it's part of the risks of all the technologies that come in, actually, because it's always with a risk.
Yep.
And the thing is how we mitigate risks, or how we can assure that we take more positive things instead of negative things. I don't know whether you have any comment from the audience. Yes, please.
I think I can say from my experience in Southeast Asia, beginning with Singapore MS, or even Indonesia, Vietnam, they're pretty good regulators with a very cautious but constructive approach.
I'm a fan of MAS, for example.
They have always taken the lead.
Huge fan.
And for example, like even 15, 20 years ago, when we were moving from on-prem to cloud, they were cautiously advising all the banks how to move to the cloud and what to do with. And now they're doing the same thing since 2016 on AI, now with Gen AI and with blockchain and crypto. Very constructive approach. Unlike sometimes in India, they take pretty extreme approaches. So that was pretty encouraging to allow us to do a lot of experimentation, a lot of sandbox experiments.
This is so true, and I had the chance to visit Singapore in November 22. I went to visit DBS. I highly appreciate and think highly of DBS as a bank, and they were so supportive, and of course working so closely with the regulator, which is something that we all want to have in order to.
And you would think that they are friends, the regulators friends with DBS, but DBS was fined heavily.
I know.
When their ATMs went down for 4 hours.
Yeah, I know. They have this. Even the Queen has its issues. So last question, and this is something that we will compete against the machine. It's a question for all of us, beginning from you, Bruno. What do you believe are the key trends in banking industry for the next 5 years?
Honestly, I really love that question because I really like to imagine the next upcoming years. And I guess that, again, we are just at the beginning, in my opinion, right? And I guess that the way banks interact with their customers in the next upcoming years, they are going to be changed completely. Because imagine now OpenAI is already challenging Google in terms of the way people search. So in terms of search about brands, services, etc., what we have now, it will be completely different. Together with that, imagine that our routine, right, it is going to be changed as well, because Tesla is building on the self-driving taxis and self-driving vehicles. We all now heard about the humanoids that will be on stores and will be at our home. So, and I like to imagine myself going to work with this autonomous driving vehicle, right? And what am I going to do, right? I will have more time, and I'm quite sure. Yeah, exactly. And I guess that everything will become much more conversational, right? Because it will be everything. We just saw the presentation from OpenAI 2 days ago, and from Google, right? Now we have a machine that can observe the environment where you are and have a conversation about with you and helping you take decisions. So, and I guess that it will be very we will see significant differences on the conversational part, on the engagement part, and I guess that we will get into high levels, even better than the ones that we have now, but high levels of personalization that we will, the banks got to be part of the financial management of our peoples, and they got to be able to help them and to be there during the day to support them on this. So I guess that it's my expectations: more personalization, more safety, and more machines conversation probably.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Jacob?
Yeah, I fully agree. And then actually also I will say the way we are looking at risk, and then also the competences in the bank. I think a good banker today is maybe not a good banker going forward. And we need to look into that. And as Sam was showing in his presentation, I think the mindset of risk is saying that if change is only a risk if you don't take the chance, right? Or chance is a risk if you don't take it. So I think there's somehow how we are looking at risk and also other kind of risk that we are not used to now.
Okay, Sarah?
So I'm going to diverge from those opinions a little bit. So we have a AI needs a human heart hashtag. I think that the human interaction when it comes to trust and relationship management is going to become even more important. I think the intelligence that we need to bring will be around people being able to connect the insights created through generative AI together, potentially new products, potentially across different banks, potentially as spin-offs, to put better products in the hands of clients, but they're going to want a human to interface with. And I thought it was very interesting from Starling Bank that's been their experience as well. 24/7, but people only, no chatbot, right? And I think we're going to see more of an emphasis on that human connection because the tooling is going to be so commoditized in so many people's hands on a day-to-day basis.
Missing that, actually.
People are going to be missing that, and they're going to learn to trust the human more than they are the AI. So.
Super interesting. And Davor?
Okay, I will try to be a little bit more practical. I mean, I also like to, imagine the future and so on, and it goes well, especially after a third beer or something. But the one thing which, two things. One is banks are obviously, as every industry, actually becoming more and more dependent on technology. But again, for this technology, some knowledge is needed or good to have. And I do believe that it's already now obvious that banks are hardly able to attract the talented people actually from technological background there, because if you are top shot in technology, you're not going to work for a bank. You will go to Google's and Nvidia's and whatsoever, and banks will never ever get those guys, no matter how much they pay them. And for some reason, they don't want to pay them equally because they think they are better. And here we are then coming to the problem, not only coping up with the technology and personalization and whatsoever, but purely risk and security. Because those guys who like to break into the banks, they will find a way to break in much easier altogether because talents are outside. This is one thing. The other thing is then related to overall coping with the technology and so on. And especially here in the banks, I'm since years hearing a lot of discussions about personalized product and everything nicely. Problem is that at least I'm trying to look at it as a customer as well, because all of us working in a bank, we are also customers of the bank, right? I mean, as a customer, you don't want to think about banks, really. I mean, nobody wakes up and says, I want a loan and own a bank next 20 years. You wake up and you want something else, right? And, well, if you don't have money, then, bank is the necessarily evil to get with. And one of the things which I do believe banks really need to consider is what exactly is their role in that setup. I mean, banks are still expecting that banks are on the top of the list of customers' expectations and everything, but that's not a fact. I mean, as a customer, I want that my money is safe and that I can do the transaction and that I'm eligible to get a loan when I need to. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
That's it. So, correct. So things like that. So I don't want to think about that, and especially the new generations. I mean, when I'm looking at my daughters, they're already adults and so on. They have a different point of view. I mean,
Exactly.
there are different reasons for it, and we can debate. But I mean, they don't think that in the same way about money and wealth as we did. For them, it's really unnecessarily evil. They are focusing on different topics, which means banks are not already now, not and in the future, they are not in the center of attention of a clients.
Exactly. On the new
But
customers.
it's needed, you know, to be and to accompany the life of the people and so on. So they will need to rethink their position in overall ecosystem of needs.
So this is what the experts say, Christina. Do we have also what the AI thinks? AI opinion, digital transformation acceleration, AI and machine learning integration, open banking expansion, rise of fintech partnerships, focus on cybersecurity, definitely. Shift towards cashless transactions, personalization and customization, expansion of sustainable finance, regulatory compliance challenges, and decentralized finance experimentation, which is pretty much based on what we know today. But okay, I would like also to think out of the box and expect the unexpected. So thank you so much for this panel today.